We are listening Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Talk 28. The devotee asked, Maharshi Ramana, what is the interrelation between regulation of thought and regulation of breath? Maharshi said, thought, the intellectual and respiration, circulation, etc., that is vegetative, these activities are both different aspects of the same, the individual life. Both depend upon or metaphorically reside or inhere in life. Personality and other ideas spring from it like the vital activity. If respiration or other vital activity is forcibly repressed, thought also is repressed. If thought is forcibly slowed down and pinned to a point, the vital activity of respiration is slowed down, made even, and confined to the lowest level compatible with life. In both the cases, the distracting variety of thought is temporarily at the end. The interaction is noticeable in other ways also. Take the will to live, that is thought power, that sustains and keeps up life when other vitality is almost exhausted and delays death. In the absence of such willpower, death is accelerated. So thought is said to carry life with it in the flesh and from one fleshy body to another. Then the devotee asked that, O Maharshi, are there any aids to concentration and casting off distractions? Ramana Maharshi replied, physically, the digestive and other organs are kept free from irritation. Therefore, food is regulated both in quantity and quality. Non-irritants are eaten, avoiding chilies, excess of salt, onions, wine, opium, etc. Avoid constipation, drowsiness, and excitement, and all foods which induce them. Mentally take interest in one thing and fix the mind on it. Ramana Maharshi said further, let such interest be all-absorbing to the exclusion of everything else. This is dispassion, this is vairagya, and this is concentration. God or mantra may be chosen. The mind then gains strength to grasp the subtle and merge into it. Devotee then asked that, Maharshi, the distractions result from inherited tendencies. Can they be cast off too? Ramana Maharshi said, yes, many have done so. Believe it, they did so because they believed they could. The vasanas, that is the predispositions, can be obliterated can be removed, and it is done by concentration on that which is free from vasanas and yet is their core. Devotee then asked that how long is the practice to continue? Ramana Maharshi said, till success is achieved and until yoga liberation become permanent. Success begets success. If one distraction is conquered, then the next is to be conquered, and so on until all are finally conquered. The process is like reducing an enemy's fort by slaying its manpower one by one as each issues out. Then the devotee asked, Maharshi, what is the goal of this process? Maharshi said, realizing the real. And then, what is the nature of the reality? The question was asked. Ramana Maharshi said, first, existence without beginning or end, that is eternal experience. Then existence everywhere, endless, infinite, will be experienced. Existence underlying all forms, all changes, all forces, all matter and all spirit could be realized. The many change and pass away phenomena, whereas the one always endures. And the one displacing the triads, that is, the knower, the knowledge, and the known. The triads are only appearances in time and in space, whereas the reality lies beyond and behind them. They are like a mirage over the reality, and they are the result of delusion. Devotee then asked that, O Maharshi, if I also be an illusion, who then casts off the illusion? Maharshi said, the I casts off the illusion of I and yet remains as I. Such is the paradox of self-realization. The realized do not see any contradiction in it. Take the case of bhakti. I approach Ishvara and pray to be absorbed in Him. I then surrender myself in faith, and by concentration, what remains afterwards? In place of the original I, perfect self-surrender leaves a residuum of God in which the I is lost. This is the highest form of devotion, the Parabhakti, Prapatti, surrender, or the height of Vairagya. You give up this and that of my possessions. If you give up I and mine instead, all are given up at a stroke. The very seed of the possession is lost. Thus, the evil is nipped in the bud or crushed in the germ itself. The dispassion or vairagya must be very strong to do this. Eagerness to do it must be equal to that of a man kept under water trying to rise up to the surface for his life. Devotee then lovingly asked, cannot this trouble and difficulty be lessened with the aid of a master or an Ishta Devata, god chosen for worship. Cannot they give the power to see ourselves as it is, to change us into themselves, to take us into self realization? Maharshi replied, Ishta Devata and Guru are aids, very powerful aids on this path. But an aid to be effective requires your effort also. Your effort is important. It is you who should see the sun. Can spectacles and the sun see for you? You yourself have to see your true nature. Not much aid is required for doing it. Devotee then asks that what is the relation between my free will and the overwhelming might of the omnipotent? Is omniscience of God consistent with ego's free will? Is omnipotence of God consistent with ego's free will? Are the natural laws consistent with God's free will? To this, Ramana Maharshi said, yes, free will is the present appearing to a limited faculty of sight and will. The same ego sees its past activity as falling into a course of law or rules, its own free will being one of the links in that course of law. Omnipotence and omniscience of God are then seen by the ego to have acted through the appearance of his own free will. So he comes to the conclusion that the ego must go by appearances. Natural laws are manifestations of God's will and they have been laid down. Devotee then asked, is the study of science, psychology, physiology, philosophy, etc. helpful for this art of yoga liberation, the intuitive grasp of the unity of the real? Mahasi said, very little. Some knowledge is needed for yoga and it may be found in books. But practical application is the thing needed, and personal example, personal touch, and personal instructions are the most helpful aids. As for the other, a person may laboriously convince himself of the truth to be intuited, that is, its function and nature, but the actual intuition is akin to feeling and requires practice and personal contact. Mere book learning is not of any great use. After realization, all intellectual loads are useless burdens and are thrown overboard as jetsam. Jettisoning the ego is necessary and natural. Devotee then asked, how does dream differ from waking? Ramana Maharshi said, in dreams one takes on different bodies and they re-enter this body when one dreams of sense contacts. What is happiness? Is it inheriting in the Atma or in the object or in the contact between the subject object? But we do not see happiness in our affairs. When does it actually arise? The devotee asked. Ramana Maharshi said, when there is contact of a desirable sort or memory thereof, and when there is freedom from undesirable contacts or memory thereof, we say there is happiness. Such happiness is relative and is better called pleasure. But men want absolute and permanent happiness. This does not reside in objects but in the absolute. It is peace free from pain and pleasure. It is a neutral state. Devotee then asks, in what sense is happiness our real nature? Ramana Maharshi said, perfect bliss is Brahma. Perfect peace is of the self. That alone exists and is conscious. The same conclusion is arrived at just metaphysically inferred by Bhakti Marg. We pray to God for bliss and receive it by grace. The bestower of bliss must be bliss itself and also infinite. Therefore, Ishvara is the personal God of infinite power and infinite bliss. Brahma is bliss, impersonal and absolute. The finite egos deriving their source from Brahma and then Ishvara are in their spiritual nature bliss only. Biologically, an organism functions because such functions are attended with happiness. It is pleasure that helps our growth, food, exercise, rest, and gregarious qualities. The psychology and metaphysics of pleasure is perhaps this. Our nature is primarily one, entire, blissful. Take this as a probable hypothesis. Creation is by the entire Godhead breaking into God and nature, Maya or Prakriti. This Maya is of two parts, Para, the supporting essence, and Apara, the five elements, mind, intellect, and ego. Ego's perfection is suddenly broken at a point and a want is felt, giving rise to a desire to get something or do something. When that want is cured by the fulfillment of that desire, the ego is happy and the original perfection is restored. Therefore, happiness may be said to be our natural condition or nature. Pleasure and pain are relative and refer to our finite state with progress by satisfaction of want. If relative progress is stopped and the soul merges into Brahma of the nature of perfect peace, that soul ceases to have relative temporary pleasure and enjoys perfect peace bliss. Hence, self realization is bliss. It is realizing the self as the limitless spiritual I, that is the Jnana Drishti, and not clairvoyance. It is the highest self surrender. Samsara, the world cycle, is sorrow. Then the devotee asks that why then is sansar, creation and manifestation as finite, so full of sorrow and evil? Ramana Maharshi said, God's will. Devotee asks, why does God will it so? Ramana Maharshi said, it is inscrutable. No motive can be attributed to that power. No desire, no end to achieve can be asserted of that one infinite, all wise, and all powerful being. God is untouched by activities which take place in His presence. Compare the sun and the world activities. There is no meaning in attributing responsibility and motive to the one before it becomes many. But God's will for the prescribed course of events is a good solution of the free will problem. If the mind is restless on account of a sense of the imperfect and unsatisfactory character of what befalls us or what is committed or omitted by us, then it is wise to drop the sense of responsibility and free will by regarding ourselves as the ordained instruments of the all-wise and all-powerful to do and suffer as He pleases. He carries all burdens and He gives us peace. Talk 29. On another occasion, the evening was calm and cloudy. It was drizzling occasionally and somewhat cool in consequence. The windows of the ashram hall were closed, and Maharshi was seated as usual on the sofa. Facing him sat the devotees. Some visitors had come from Kadalo, a sub-judge, accompanied by two elderly ladies amongst them. The sub-judge began the discussion as to the impermanence of all mundane things by putting the question, has the discrimination between reality and unreality the efficacy in itself to lead us to the realization of the one imperishable, that is, Sat Asata Vicharna? Can this lead to the truth? Maharshi replied, as propounded by all and realized by all true seekers, fixity in the Supreme Spirit, that is the Brahmanishta alone, can make us know and realize it. it being of us and in us, any amount of discrimination, vivechana, can lead us only one step forward by making us renouncers, by goading us to discard the seeming, that is, the abhas, as transitory, and to hold fast to the eternal truth and presence alone. The conversation turned upon the question as to whether the Ishwar Prasad, divine grace, is necessary for the attaining of Samrajya, universal dominion, or whether a jiva's honest and strenuous efforts to attain it cannot of themselves lead him to that from whence is no return to life and death. Ramana Maharshi, with an ineffable smile which lit up his holy face and which was all pervasive, shining upon the coterie around him, replied in tones of certainty and with the ring of truth, divine grace is essential for realization. It leads one to God realization. But such grace is vouchsafed only to him who is a true devotee or a yogi who has striven hard and ceaselessly on the path towards freedom. Then the devotee asks that there are 6 centers mentioned in the yoga books, but the jiva is said to reside in the heart. Is it not so? Ramana Maharshi said, yes. The jiva is said to remain in the heart in deep sleep, and in the brain in the waking state. The heart need not be taken to be the muscular cavity with 4 chambers which propels blood. There are indeed passages which support the view, and there are others who take it to mean a set of ganglia or nerve centers about that reason. Whichever view is correct does not matter to us. We are not concerned with anything less than ourselves. That we have certainly within us. There could be no doubts or discussions about that. The heart is used in the Vedas and the scriptures to denote the place whence the notion I springs. Does it spring only from the fleshy ball? It springs within us somewhere right in the middle of our being. The I has no location, everything is the self, there is nothing but that. So the heart must be said to be the entire body of ourselves and of the entire universe conceived as I. But to help the practitioner, Abhyasi, we have to indicate a definite part of the universe or of the body. So, this heart is pointed out as the seat of the self, but in truth, we are everywhere, we are all that is, and there is nothing else. Devotee then asked, it is said that divine grace is necessary to attain successful, undistracted mind, that is samadhi. Is that so? Ramana Maharshi replied, "We are God, Ishvara, Ishvara Drishti, that is, seeing ourselves as God, is itself divine grace. So we need divine grace to get God's grace." Maharshi smiles and all devotees laugh together. There is also divine favor, Ishwar Anugraha, as distinct from Ishwar Prasadam, divine grace. Is that so? The devotee then asked. Ramana Maharshi said, "The thought of God is divine favor. He is by nature grace or prasad or arul. It is by God's grace that you think of God. Is not the Master's grace the result of God's grace?" the devotee asked. Ramana Maharshi replied, "Why distinguish between the two? The Master is the same as God and not different from Him." The devotee then asked, "When an endeavor is made to lead the right life and to concentrate thought on the self, there is often a downfall and break. What is to be done?" Ramana Maharshi said, "It will come all right in the end. There is the steady impulse of your determination that sets you on your feet again after every downfall and breakdown. Gradually, the obstacles are all overcome and your current becomes stronger. Everything comes right in the end. Steady determination is what is required." Now, time to take a pause. Thanks for listening.